Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome all of you to the SkillsFuture Month in collaboration with Smart Nation 2021, organized by SkillsFuture Singapore and Smart Nation Singapore. Our speaker, Ali, will be sharing the topic, No IT, Get IT, Acquiring In-Demand Tech Skills for the Digital Economy. Throughout the session, please feel free to post your questions in the Q&A tab that you see on the right panel. Do take note, questions will be moderated. Ali, you are live.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Celeste. Just wanted to make sure you guys can hear me, right?
Correct.
Awesome. Well, it's an honor really to be here today. Thanks so much everyone for attending. I will try my best to instill this knowledge that I've gained onto the participants. As Celeste said, I lead on the Middle East partnerships as well in Singapore at Udacity. It's been just a quick intro. It's been around I'm in my 11th year of career, and a lot of a mix of experiences from factories in Africa to public sector consulting in the Middle East. So I hope to bring this filter onto you guys, and please keep this engaging, keep this interactive. Feel free to chat at any moment. I'm joined by my colleague Zena, who also will be able to help us through. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. All right. So skilling for the fourth industrial revolution. I am starting with an important quote that we take, that we take with us a lot around here at Udacity. Elon Musk, was being interviewed, and he was asked what his views are on education. Now, as you guys read this quote, you'll realize that I may come out here and say a university degree is not right. That is not what I'm saying. I had an awesome university experience. It is definitely a very good place to be. But the world is changing. The world is changing a lot, and it's very important for all of us to keep that in mind. And Elon Musk had actually chosen at the time. He portrayed this, and this is obviously years ago, back in '95. And he said, you can get a doctorate on many things, but not have a practical bearing on the world. And I think those words are very powerful, right? Practical bearing. We spend so much time and money and effort, and we just want to make sure that the return on our investment is in sync with what the world needs. And that fit is what we're going to try to talk about today. And being useful, as Elon has worded it. So what can I do that would actually be useful? And I'd like you all to ask yourselves that question, and as I do every day. And I think it's important to pull our skilling needs from that perspective. So today what we'll do is try to understand a bit more about the upskilling dilemma. What is the problem really that we're facing today? And what's the solution? Of course, these are proposed solutions. Solutions are very tailored. There's no one right fits all, but how do we get skilled, and how do we do it efficiently? Because there's no more time. And we'll give a quick introduction to the Know It, Get It, Temasek and Udacity skilling solution as one of those proposed options. And then we'll have an open discussion, and please feel free to keep posting your questions in the chat. Or to have them live at the end. 1 billion individuals, that is around 1/7 of the world's population, could be displaced by automation and will need to find new jobs by 2030 around the world. This affects us all. This is very real, and I think it's very important to understand the global problem. You may open up your own business. You may be working in a certain business. We may be working for corporates. The future of work is changing as we know it. I'm sure everyone here knows what that means, but automation and digital are taking over. Everyone is aware of that, but not everyone is aware, shockingly, of the impact it has on our jobs. There are several reports out there, and I urge you all to, try to understand, if you haven't already, a big portion of what they preach. If you look at the World Economic Forum Jobs Report 2020, if you look at other kinds of forums, you'll realize that jobs are changing a lot, and the face of those jobs are changing, and we'll touch upon that later today. But it's not just the jobs will be displaced or that they will change, but people will have to change those jobs over the next 10 years. With over $1 trillion being spent on digital transformation every year, and with an incredible growth rate of that, I think we can see that employers' needs are changing, and this is pulled by demand, right? So the job supply needs to actually fit within, and it's very important for us all to keep that in mind, because organizational change and employers in general always prioritize talent shortage as their number one risk. So they feel that risk, and it's on us to try to upskill in order to that. We went through a pandemic, created everything. I mean, personal growth, that's for sure, and there was a lot for me to think about. But there were other things. Working from home. I'm now speaking to you, from my home, and I think it's very important to keep in mind that this pandemic has a very is very important and a large impact on all of those trends. So as we kind of understand, okay, these jobs will be displaced over the next 10 years, with COVID accelerating these trends, we're talking about the next 5 years. And we don't really have time anymore to go and snatch PhDs and MBAs, and even though those have their great value proposition as well, but if we want to try to understand, try to pursue a certain skill, we need to do it very efficiently. So it's just to take a step back and look at it from a global perspective. There's a race, all right? There's a race towards digital. I'll give you guys, a quick anecdote here in the Middle East. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has a Vision 2030, and around 50% of that vision is all about digital. If you look at the Emirates in Dubai, they also have that. And then we go all around the world. We see Boston, for example. Its race towards digital isn't, getting the new futuristic technologies, but it's rather trying to position itself as a global leader in research and development, as it probably already has. And so, the patents per capita in Boston are one of the highest in the world, or at least in the Golden Triangle of Raleigh, Durham, and Boston. And Silicon Valley is, of course, the famous one, but many people sometimes don't know that Amsterdam is EU's highest tech startups per capita. So Amsterdam's a beautiful city for whoever has been, but you wouldn't know. So the idea is, as cities grow, they don't necessarily need to change how they kind of transform with time. What they need to change is the infrastructure in terms of digital, in terms of dynamic technological ecosystem, innovation capabilities, and obviously the quality of life for its residents. But at the base and at the cusp of all of that is really skilled talent. Attracting talent and skilling them is really the key factor, if you want, the key shared denominator between all of those cities as they lead the race towards future. And governments are globally recognizing this, and they are upskilling their citizens in that respect, much like we have here in Singapore. And so what are the top demanded tech skills? Obviously, around the world, you guys know we have cloud computing, we have, AI, etc. But what about Singapore specifically? Let's try to get a bit specific and understand what the top ones are. And you see software development as a very important one, and I think this is something that's been there for a few years and will continue to be there. We see data analytics and data science as a key skill as well that is demanded. And this is important for all types of automation, whether from a factory perspective or all the way, in more corporate settings. Cloud engineering and cybersecurity are obviously very important. Cyber is becoming, is slowly rising the ranks around the world, in fact. And cybersecurity specialists are in demand. Ethical hacking is in demand as well. And it's actually a very interesting course we offer. But it's very important to keep these in mind, because what are these pulled from? These are pulled from national needs, from employer needs, from governmental needs. But what seems to be, ranked number one is artificial intelligence and machine learning. And I think this comes as no surprise to many of you. But worldwide spending is expected to rise to more than $110 billion by 2024. That's a huge number. And the roles have grown 74%. This is an unprecedented growth rate. And the important concept is, what's changing isn't the fact that the job is being lost. It's that the job itself is changing, right? So rather than working on an assembly line like you would in a factory or whatnot, we're actually working around the machine that automates, right? So it's how to handle the machinery. It's not that robots and machines are going to replace us, even though many may claim this, but it's rather how to handle those machines, and to really keep humans in control. But that's a whole other psychological discussion that we won't get into today. But I think it's important, right, to keep in mind the importance of AI and the importance of machine learning, and what artificial intelligence could kind of, the world. There's a plethora of skills that are unleashed from AI. So machine learning and AI will unleash those skills, and it's very important to kind of keep that in mind as you get skilled, because the jobs of today, we have software developer and clinical researcher, data manager, cybersecurity, risk and compliance, right? So those are all jobs that come as no surprise to you. But as we move, and tomorrow isn't so far away, in the next 5 to 10 years, we're looking at delivery drone pilots, we're looking at robotics engineers, automation specialists, AI architects, alternative energy specialists, and of course the list goes on. But even after that, and I don't have this here in the presentation, there are memory surgeons, there are holographic machine specialists. There are, commercial flight specialists in terms of, driverless planes and self-driving cars. I think, these sound like they're, buzz tech words, but they really are around the corner. And we see it every day. In our business, we offer these kinds of skills, and we see that impact being made every day, and we see the demand for it slowly rising. So please keep that in mind as you kind of, and we'll talk about, the best way to get skilled, but, it's important, because if we're going to predict the future, we need to create it. And I think Abraham Lincoln, and this is one of his famous quotes, what does creating it mean? It means we need to take charge. It means we need to have that upper hand. And it means in order for us to kind of, understand what the future bears, we need to understand, where we are today and what's needed. And so trying to get those skills is an important and efficient process in order for us to take the control that we need of this future. Again, so that we don't allow robots to take over, but also so that we can, take charge of our own futures. I think this is an important point to do that. And so, I think we framed the problem quite extensively, and what I want to move towards is more the solution, right? So how do we take charge? How do we create the future? And what do we do in order to succeed? And I guess, this hinges on two key aspects, and it's, what's important is the framing here, right? So we need the right learning product, and we'll go into what right means. And to do that, we need the right mindset for learning. So we can have all the greatest products in the world. There's millions out there online, but if we don't have the right mindset, then we won't be able to yield any value or extract any value from those learnings. And so to dig a little deeper into what the right learning product means, to us it means three key things. It's time efficiency, relevance, and cost efficiency. And you see efficient being there all the time because, as we said, those trends are creeping up. They're right here around the corner. And so we want to make sure we're very, we pursue a product that is very succinct in its approach of teaching. We need something that's very flexible. Some of us have the time of the day to spend, maybe 6-7 hours, but others don't. I know when I took, online learnings complementary to my job, I would only be able to do them at, 9:30 p.m., 10 p.m., sometimes on the weekends. And so I needed something that was very self-paced. And I think we all share that need. And relevance is important, right? So what does the industry need? What does the country need? And what kind of product gives me a practical application of skills? This practical application is very important. If we go back to Elon Musk's quote, I want to be useful, right? So how can I be useful? And I urge you all, when you register for any kind of learning product and you go online and you read, please do ask yourselves, is this useful? Is this helping me become useful? And it's very important to keep all of that in mind as you try to pursue those complementary skills, because we can't become drone delivery engineers if we're taking a learning product that isn't useful. And cost efficiency, of course, is very important, right? So we're investing not just time and effort, we're also investing money, and we want to make sure that the return on our investment is very high. And so, always with learning products, I urge you, please, to make sure you look at what's included, remove all the noise, always try to understand, what am I really getting out of this learning product? What kind of skills am I going to get out of it from, and who's kind of developing this, and all of this in order to understand whether you have the right value for your money. And so, we go to the second part of the equation, which is the right mindset. The digital landscape is changing and we need the right mindset for it. And, mindset means many things, I'm sure, to all of us, but, just a simple 4-step process kind of gives us an idea of what to do. So before we start going to pursue, skills that we think are cool, when I first heard about self-driving cars, I was very excited. I'd come to Udacity and I just wanted to register, but I realized there's like a huge list of prerequisites, and then I realized this is a full engineering kind of learning product, and I need to make sure this is in line with where I see myself, what the issue is. And so we can't get excited and get carried away. What we want to do first is try to understand what the gap is, right? So what am I lacking? Where does my current knowledge stand? What are some of the new technology and in-demand skills, and where do I stand currently? And after that, we try to fill that gap, right? So let's try to develop a strategy in order to understand those learning opportunities. So for example, I want to become an AI specialist. Most learning products, or please make sure any of the learning products you choose are stackable, right? So they actually move in terms of different levels of fluency and different levels of difficulty. And how do I utilize kind of those opportunities to make sure that I come out with the right skills that are relevant to the job or relevant to the industry. And so you want to make sure that you go through those levels of difficulty and not just have this one-off skill, and have a strategy, have a schedule. Say in the next quarter, I want to come out of this with this basic skill in terms of machine learning and AI, and then in the quarter after that, I want to come out with another skill. And it's important to keep all that in mind as you kind of set up your strategy and schedule. But knowing is not enough, right? We need to get the skill. We need to actually acquire it. We need to feel like we've done it. And so you want to make sure you gain the right experience. And honestly, I have seen, people in their 50s and 60s, try to, go to some digital factory and try to, 3D printing factory and try to get some, 3-month internship in the summer, just to get that actual experience. There's no limitation. We should never stop ourselves just because we're in a certain job or just because we're moving a certain path. We should always make time to get that experience. And learning from our peers, learning from the people in the industry is also a great a privilege for whoever has it, in order to help get that skill as well. And finally, show it, right? So you want to know the skill, you want to get the skill, and then you want to show it. Try to include, whatever the learning product you end up with, try to include it in your resume. When you present and when you're pursuing new jobs, make sure you've shown that you've acquired that skill. And I think it shows not just your understanding of today's world and how how important it is to you. You've also shown efficiency. You've shown that you've tried to acquire a certain skill that's in demand today, in less than 6 months or in less than a year, and you already have the experience for it. This is a very powerful message to recruiters, but also to the startup world. I mean, we're in the tech business, and we want to start when we start a new business. Obviously, all of us want to develop that business as we start up. When we go out and pitch our product, we want to show that we know. If we I know this is a very common example, but if we're developing an app and we go out and start pitching that app, or try to get more business, you want to show that you understand what a software engineer means. You understand what what an app developer means, and you knew this over a year, and that's awesome. So make sure we boast that. And the world that is unleashed because of skilling is crazy, right? So you want to always make sure within this mindset that you seize the opportunities of that world, with curiosity, with passion, and with empathy. I can't stress enough how important this is. This is a fast changing world. People are changing all around us. When you get skilled, the person sitting next to you on the desk may not get skilled. And the person, to the other side is probably a lot more skilled than you. And so understanding our balance in this world and understanding how much we can give back and how much we can take from our communities is very, very important. So, and this is tailored. We all apply it differently. But we want to make sure we open up that door, and you want to make sure that you also, apart from the emotional barrier, even when you're actually learning, you want to make sure you break down the skill, right? So you want to be very specific about what you want to learn and to break it into smaller pieces. And this is kind of the point to my strategy, right? So you want to make sure you have that schedule and remove any barriers. So don't be distracted. After a 10 to 15 hour job, workday, it's very, very difficult for me to find the motivation to go up back on a laptop and learn again, after having seen a laptop all day long. So I understand it's difficult. It takes a lot, but that's why you want to make sure the learning product has a very, immersive and dynamic approach. Also, if you're doing, and getting the skill that you find important and relevant to you in the industry, it should be very enjoyable. and make sure you learn from your mistakes. I think this is a very important element. um, Having framed the solution, I think what I'd like to do is kind of jump into a little story and an anecdote. This is Omar al-Baik. Omar is he lived in Aleppo in Syria. Aleppo is a city in the north of Syria for whoever isn't acquainted, and he ran a restaurant business. But then, due to the situation in Syria in 2015, Omar and his family had to flee. And like many families, he ended up in Turkey. Omar is actually one of our, I'm privileged to say that he's actually one of our students at Udacity. But what Omar kind of had in terms of the right mindset, that part of the equation is he wanted to be relevant, right? He had lost his business. Opportunities were not kind of out there for him. Like many other Syrians who had fled into Turkey, he wasn't given the same opportunities as the locals, of course, and he wanted to be relevant in Turkey. And so what he did was he actually pursued one of our nano degrees, and we'll get into what that is later. And he actually became the #1 trending Swift developer on GitHub. And so he was one of the leading app developers for Swift. And it makes it stories like that and impact like that just not just makes us proud every day, but also really sets that perspective for everyone around. It inspires all of us to be relevant, to understand that we can make an impact in lower time than we think we need. It literally highlights the equation I was talking about, which is the right learning product that Omar went for, and the right mindset. I thought this was an interesting anecdote to share, and it kind of gives us, it paves the way for my next anecdote, which is this photo. So this photo is one of Sebastian Thrun. For those of you who don't know, Sebastian is Udacity's co-founder, and he was a Stanford professor. Around 10 years ago, him and his co-founder, Peter, who's in the photo as well, were teaching this course on artificial intelligence, and thought, why don't we don't want to just teach this course to the elitist, Stanford community? Why don't we open it up to the world? And they thought they were going to get, 500, 1,000, maybe 2,000 learners, because this is around 10 to 15 years ago, right? So the awareness on online learning and digital skilling wasn't as high. 160,000 people registered for this course. That alone was kind of a wake-up call for Sebastian and his co-founder to come and say, there's a huge opportunity. But what was interesting is, of the 23,000 who actually passed the course, the first rank of the Stanford student who was registered was 412, meaning there were 411 people who did better than the first Stanford student from around the world. And that was the eureka moment that kind of unleashed, our DNA at Udacity, which is everyone can get the skill. Everyone can know the skill, and everyone can get the skill. And it doesn't have to do with leadership conferences and 4-year Ivy League education degrees. It's really a mindset and a product. And this is the formula that we believe in, and this is the formula that works. And And that's why for us at Udacity, our mission is actually to train the world's workforce in the careers of the future. And those can mean many things, right? So we're not educating, we're training. And there is a difference. And I think we spoke about this earlier when we try to, make sure that we have a practical bearing. And to go back to to Elon Musk's quote about being useful, you can't be useful just by education. Of course, there's a huge use of value to that, but you need to be trained. And this is very important. And the careers of the future are, as we said, around the corner. And so we keep that in mind as we kind of move through. And for us, training means many things, but we don't like to, we don't want to just post a university syllabus online, right? So we talked about the right learning products. We talked about it being practical, and not just time efficient and cost efficient, but also practical, meaning you're able to kind of know the skill, but also get the actual skill by training on it. And so what we do is actually develop our curricula with industry leaders. So, for our self-driving car nano degree, which I mentioned, earlier, we go to Mercedes-Benz and go like, what do you want in your self-driving specialist tomorrow? What do you want in that kind of profile? What are the skills you're looking for? And let's together sit and kind of, develop the curriculum for that nano degree. And we do that with many partners for all of our nano degrees. Udacity is based in Silicon Valley, and obviously, we have a lot of our neighbors there. But it's important to us. We always try to, make sure all of these nano degree contents are updated and there's a practical bearing, and hopefully trying to make everyone useful. And so we do that through 7 schools. Of course, you have your data science and your AI, but we also have autonomous systems, and this is kind of our a lot of our self-driving car engineer kind of nano degrees are there. You have programming and development, the cloud, cybersecurity, which is a very interesting one. And this is the ethical hacking nano degree I mentioned earlier, and some very interesting nano degrees there. Of course, they differ in levels of difficulty, and this is important to keep in mind. But what is a nano degree? Of course, there's not enough time today to highlight a lot of the the elements of a nano degree, but basically it is it has to do with 3 key elements: a bite-sized online module, it includes real-world projects, and it includes coaching and mentoring. So we have short videos, a very immersive curriculum, very learning by doing kind of exercises. We've got quizzes and all of that. But also the projects are very important. So, in one of the AI nano degrees, you'll end up, if I'm not mistaken, developing, faces of celebrities using Python. So, it's these really very important skills, and we don't take this, very, just to be clear, Udacity nano degrees aren't for everyone. They are rigorous. They require dedication. They are self-paced, but they are rigorous. And our application criteria are important for everyone. But they are rigorous because you end up being able to use that skill in a job. Once you graduate from a Udacity nano degree, you are ready for a job in the skill that you've gained. And this is very important to us. We take, career outcomes in that sense very, very seriously. But we know that we're all human. We know that our attention spans are very short. I know mine is. And so we always need to be on the right track. And that's why we've added, coaches and mentors to our offering. We have, there are real human experts and not just automated ones on the computer, reviewing each line of code one by one. And just kind of, making sure everyone's on the right track. We, in fact, recruit these mentors and coaches as experts within the field. And what's beautiful for us, apart from the skills and all of that, is the community. We end up building this awesome digital expert community where, someone who's, kind of in their later age trying to get skilled in skills they've never seen before are kind of paired up with this, software developer expert who's been in the field for 15 years. And this is the world of, possibilities that I think is unleashed. I think is very important, because for us, the impact of a nano degree means many things. But other than, there are many stories like Omar. For us, impact is important. And so, if it's what fuels us. In Egypt, we were able to, upskill thousands of students, but it's stories like, a single mother of three who was kind of, living in a suburb in Egypt, who went from making the bare minimum to around $1,500 a week, through our freelancing degree, nano degree. And I think it's that kind of impact that keeps us fueled and keeps us moving. And we hope to continue to make it around the world. And so in Singapore, we are starting, a lot of this impact. And I won't speak a lot about this program. Please feel free to kind of ask questions. But we're very privileged to partner with Temasek Polytechnic, which has a very aligned mandate with ours, and we've kind of released the Know It, Get It program. And I know I've been talking about knowing the skill and getting the skill, but this just kind of resonates with the same thought flow. And so we're delivering, very, highly cutting edge content in tech, and we're aiming to give Singaporeans and residents in Singapore the practical skills across several domains. And so we have 3 programs available. We have AI programming with Python. This teaches, I'm not going to get too much into the tech content. This is, of course, all posted and we have a link for it. But, this in general teaches Python, PyTorch, linear algebra, the foundations for building kind of, that neural network, which is the beginner skill that you need within the AI journey, right? Because we can come and tell you just to get this one AI nano degree, but it won't make you ready for the job. And we want to make sure job readiness is there. The second is Introduction to Machine Learning with TensorFlow, and the third is Machine Learning Engineer. The description is there. Of course, it's posted online. I won't take a lot of time today to get into the exact details, but you at one point you'll be kind of creating algorithms to find patterns in data. In another, you'll be applying those skills to sectors like education and finance and healthcare and robotics. So and all of us work in those industries, and so we're hoping that these programs actually trigger you to also see that practical bearing that we're talking about in your industry once acquired. And so the program is structured in two main phases. The program is self-paced, which is very important. But the personalized support that I mentioned, which is the coaching and the mentoring, is also there. The Udacity Nano degree itself is self-paced, right? So it requires around 10 hours per week, which includes lessons, videos, quizzes, the projects that we mentioned. Those projects are reviewed by Udacity reviewers, by the way, real human experts who we're in the process and we already have hired specially for this program. So they have the local context as well, and you're able to have that direct channel. And then there are virtual connect sessions, and connect sessions is where all of our benefits are very much highlighted. This is around 2 hours per week, and this is where the The coach or the mentor kind of makes sure the student progress is moving well, the timeline is fine. The timeline is proposed, of course, because it's self-paced, but we want to also make sure you end up graduating. So the coach is always there to make sure everything's fine. What are some blockers you're facing? And we want to make sure we keep that motivation level, because we want to teach you, but we also want to get you excited to apply that skill. And so we also kind of have that session to collaborate with peers. So there's a community where you could kind of, talk to all of your peers, talk to everyone involved. And for those, in those sessions, you'll also walk through the content and get through the guidelines. Everything is very, very much guided in that sense. Before we move to Q&A, and I hope, I think we're good on time, but just I hope I haven't bore you to death by now. But there are three main steps in terms of applying for the program. You first take a Udacity technical assessment. So you select which program you're kind of interested in from the three that I've mentioned. And you take a technical assessment by Udacity. This is important. As I mentioned, we have a rigorous curriculum, and so we just want to make sure you have the right prerequisites. And they're all clear right there. Of course, there are no technical prerequisites, but it's just more of a reasoning and a logic, if you want, based technical assessment. If you pass, you'll be invited to apply kind of formally, and you'll know within a week. That application deadline used to be 9 August, and we've kind of extended it, and we've received great traction already, and we've extended it to the 21st of August. You still have around 2 weeks for whoever is interested. And then the second step, after taking the Udacity technical assessment, is to apply for the SkillsFuture subsidy. So if you pass that step, you receive an email to apply to that Temasek Polytechnic, and the subsidy goes up to 90% depending on certain conditions. And so, you'll need to log in, of course, and there's a portal to actually end up making the payment. But I think what's very important here is to go back to that part of the right learning product, right? So time efficiency, practical bearing, but also cost efficiency. And so to get all of this value and to become job ready in a degree like AI in less than 4 months for 10% of the cost is quite important ROI formula, if you want. And the third step is to just go ahead and start learning. So you'll be invited to kind of a kickoff. There's a whole learning journey. We are there with you every step of the way. We have community moderators. We've got the coaches, the mentors. Everyone's just a quick message away. We even have a community where everyone gets to connect together, and we move on. We're planning to kick off on the 30th of August, and the link is right there. If anyone wants to is interested in applying. So that ends my presentation. Thank you very much, everyone, today. I think I want to open the floor for questions and answers. And so, Q&A, anything at all, thoughts, feedback, I'm ready.
So Hadi, I think we have just a question that came up through the chat, which is, can they use their SkillsFuture credit to pay for Udacity courses? So I can answer that. Hi, everyone. My name is Zaina. It's a pleasure to meet you all. I'm the program manager that will also be sort of involved in the No IT, Get IT program with Temasek Polytechnic. So for the course, for this program, similar to what Ali mentioned, students or applicants have the opportunity to apply for the SkillsFuture subsidy and receive up to 90% subsidy, depending also on your citizenship and your age. In addition, if you already do have existing SkillsFuture credit, you could use this towards the payment of the course fee. So upon applying for the program, and if you pass the Udacity technical assessment, where we assess your technical capability just to make sure that you are set up for success, You will then also be invited to apply to the SkillsFuture subsidy, which is around a 10-minute application to just submit your documents. And then if you're eligible, you can either receive up to 70% or 90% of the course fee subsidized from SkillsFuture, or you could proceed to paying with your SkillsFuture credits. So we really do, we urge you guys to apply. Check out the link. I've shared it with you guys on the chat. The website includes so much more detail on what the program entails, the commitments that are required, and more information on the 3 nano degrees that we are offering. So similar to what Ali mentioned, there's only 11 days left, or actually 10 days left to apply. We hope to see you as well in the program.
Thank you, Zaina. There was also a question on the prerequisites for step 1 by Edwin, so perhaps we touch upon that quickly.
Yes, for sure. So the prerequisites vary depending on the nano degree that you are interested in. So we're offering 3 different nano degrees: AI programming with Python, Intro to Machine Learning with TensorFlow, and then Machine Learning Engineer. So AI programming with Python has the least number of prerequisites. It primarily requires basic algebra and programming knowledge in order for you to be successful. The second nano degree that we are offering, Intro to Machine Learning, it requires intermediate Python, basic knowledge of probability and statistics. And then lastly, machine learning requires intermediate Python and machine learning algorithms. So it is a little bit more advanced in terms of the prerequisites that you would require in order to be successful. So upon applying to the Udacity technical assessment, we will assess just to make sure that you have the basic prerequisites and to also set you up for success, to make sure that you will be successful and you will benefit from the nano degree program.
Thank you. We have a question, you know, the focus of AI right now and where it will be headed. Just in the interest of time, I'll try to give a very brief answer. So, you know, AI is not an in silo concept. It impacts each and every, you know, part of our world. You know, we look at it kind of impacting the way, you know, machinery are developed, the way you go about certain technologies, but also, you know, in the short term, we see it impacting automation a lot in industrial. We see it impacting all kinds of, you know, heavy industries through the emerging tech. So it actually impacts big data, IoT, robotics, and all of those, which are actually the enabled technology for all of those automation facilities through the heavy industries. In the medium term, on the longer term, what I read that was very interesting recently is green economy jobs, right? So sustainability in energy. And what's very interesting, and perhaps I'll share that at a later stage, is the impact of AI on sustainability and energy. Because for many of us, at least for myself, sustainability and energy is kind of disjointed from tech. And so to see those two worlds merge is amazing. And AI actually helps streamline a lot of these processes in those industries, as well as take it forward. You see it affecting mobility and transportation. You see it affecting those heavy industries. You see it impacting a plethora really of those industries. And so, you know, there's a lot of material out there, and I'll try to share after this. But thank you for that. Very important question. Maybe Zaina, you know, where can we set the assessment papers? I think, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that means the application itself. Smart Nation is actually going to answer that. Very important question. Thank you, Shin, about this. You know, how will either of the nano degrees help with my job search? The nano degree, you know, is always complemented with several services. So what we have on there we have a resume review. You know, we have a career portal actually. That learners are able to get unlimited access to. This is where you get advice on careers, you get advice on how to apply, even your LinkedIn profile, by the way. And so if you remember, my 4-step process at the very end was showing the skill, and we even impact that step. So the nano degree actually helps you understand not just knowing the skill and getting the skill, but Temasek and Udacity have actually partnered to make sure that you get this unlimited access to this career portal. You are supported in your elevator pitch if you want to go into startup. We have all kinds of career workshops, and so that for us really is important to our DNA. And so just wanted to make sure we highlight that. Thank you. Great question. Are these 3 courses an example of stackable concept mentioned by Ali? They build upon each other. Maybe Zaina would be to handle that.
Yes, for sure.
And great question also. Thank you.
Thank you. I also wanted to just answer the question where to set the assessment papers, because I just believe haven't yet gotten an answer to that question. So if I understand correctly from this question, this is how do I complete the technical assessment? So you can access the website that I shared on the chat. And as soon as you click the learn more under the specific nano degree that you are interested in, it will take you to a page that has a little bit more detail on that specific nano degree. And if you just scroll down that page, there's a section that says about the course schedule, I believe, and you click apply. That will then take you to the Udacity technical assessment, where you can apply, and then we will be able to assess your technical capability. So I hope that answers your question, Susan. About the stackable nature of these 3 nano degrees. So if you basically don't have yet the basic programming or algebra skills for AI programming with Python, I suggest that you look at some of Udacity's free courses to sort of get the basic level basic knowledge on those basic prerequisites that we would require. And then after completing AI programming with Python, you can definitely attempt and go for the intro to machine learning and then machine learning. So they are designed to be stackable. And the beauty of this program is that we are offering 3 nano degrees that are within the same school. So similar to what Ali mentioned, we have several schools that we offer at Udacity. All 3 nano degrees that we are offering are within the same school, so that it allows you to progress throughout the program. I just wanted to check on time. Are we okay to answer more questions, or should we? I think, Celestine, if you're able to support with this, are we able to take a few more questions? Are we good on time?
Hi, I think we are able to do just one last question.
All right. Awesome. Thanks for that. And thank you everyone for this. So I see a few questions on technical prerequisites. I hope that Zaina kind of addressed that. What I'll do is handle this, the last question that comes up, which is why are there no other subjects? That is a great question. This is our first, kind of partnership in Singapore. Us and Temasek are very excited about this. Please be sure that hopefully there are plans for a lot more. But what's important is to be focused. So we want to make sure that this is very relevant, very industry driven, very and successful, right? So we want to make sure, because it's not just this is not your massive online course offering. This is your practical job ready nano degree. And this means actual career outcomes for us. We want to make sure that this is relevant to your industry, to your job, and so we want to make sure the success is first. For whoever ends up registering and applying and going through the nano degree, please make sure to keep giving your feedback as well, because it's that kind of feedback that actually makes these programs a success. In order to continue to make the impact we are making around the world, on workforce. We're doing it in Egypt, in KSA, in Chile, in USA. And so we're very excited to do it here in Singapore, and we're hoping to offer even more.
And just before we end this off, if you do have any other questions about the program or about Udacity, I'll post in the chat the support email that you can write in, because I know that there's a bunch of questions we didn't get the chance to answer. So right in the chat, I'll pop in our support email address, and we have a team that's available to answer any of your questions that we didn't have the chance to answer today. So thank you so much for your time today.
And I just wanted to quickly mention, there's an attendee who asked, the program application closes, but then applying for the subsidy closes on 12 August. Both of those deadlines are extended. So if you look here, both of them are extended to 21st August. Just wanted to make that clear. Thank you so much, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, before the session ends, please scan the QR code and provide your feedback or comments on the webinar. And lastly, I'd like to share with you about our skills and training advisory service. If you're not sure how to get started on your upskilling journey, you can sign up for the free one-to-one skills and advisory session, where a skills ambassador will guide you in understanding your career goals and provide suitable course recommendations. Simply scan on the QR code and indicate SFM X Smart Nation in the mandatory field, "How do you hear about us?" at the bottom of the registration form. Our skills ambassadors will contact you within 2 to 3 working days. We have come to the end of the webinar, and we thank you for joining us. Hope you have gained invaluable insights from our speaker. Thank you, and we hope to see you in the other sessions.